The heavy walnut doors of Palazzo Rucellai creaked open, revealing a world few outsiders would ever see. The ornate doorframe, with its shield like roundels and hundreds of studs, was a silent sentinel, guarding the threshold between the claustrophobic Via della Vigna Nuova and the opulent interior beyond. This was not just a house, it was a statement, a fortress of stone and art, a monument to the ambitions and illusions of a powerful Florentine family. Step inside, and the light from the narrow street outside was swallowed by the darkness of the Androne, a vaulted hallway that stretched the length of the original townhouse. The air was thick with the scent of polished wood, and the faint echo of footsteps from long ago. At the end of this passageway, the darkness gave way to a burst of sunlight, spilling into the vast open-air courtyard. This cortile, or bosom, as it was sometimes called, was the heart of the home, a space where the daily life of the Rucellai family unfolded. The courtyard was a microcosm of the city, a private piazza where children played and adults plotted. It was a place where deliveries of fresh food and dry goods were brought in, and where business was conducted. The walls of the courtyard were adorned with frescoes and sculptures, each piece a reminder of the family's wealth and influence. The Rucellai shield, a proud emblem of their lineage, was prominently displayed, a symbol of their enduring power. From the courtyard, a series of staircases led to the upper floors, each level a world unto itself. The main living quarters were a maze of rooms and corridors, each designed to serve a specific purpose. The ground floor, with its grand loggia and spacious kitchen, was the domain of the household staff, while the upper floors were reserved for the family. Giovanni Rucellai, the patriarch, ruled over this domain with a combination of warmth and authority. His wife, Icopa, managed the household with a keen eye for detail, ensuring that the needs of the family were met. The family's children, now grown, had their own spaces within the palazzo. Pandolfo, the eldest, lived with his wife and children, while Bernardo, the second son, had his own rooms with his growing family. The younger daughters, Madalna, Alessandra, Margherita, Caterina, and Marietta, each had their own chambers, though some had already left to start their own families. The house was a hive of activity, with the sound of children's laughter mingling with the hum of household chores, and the occasional burst of music or conversation. Yet for all its grandeur, Palazzo Rucellai was not without its secrets. The facade, with its intricate design and clever optical illusions, was a masterpiece of deception. Alberti, the architect, had used his skills to create a facade that appeared more substantial and imposing than it actually was. The pilasters were exaggerated, the windows stretched, and the whole structure seemed to wrap around the corner of the street, giving it a three-dimensional appearance. Even the shield above the entrance was a mere surface detail, a decorative element that belied the complexity of the building's structure. But the most intriguing feature of the facade was a small, open window on the middle story. This window, finto or fake, was a mystery. It seemed to offer a glimpse into the past, a portal to a world of ghosts and memories. Was it a nod to the family's history, a symbol of the generations that had come and gone? Or was it a playful trick, a reminder that appearances could be deceiving? The side elevation of the palazzo, visible from Via dei Palchetti, revealed the true nature of the building. The wall was warped and the windows haphazardly placed, a stark contrast to the rational, ordered facade. This chaotic side elevation was a hint at the complexities within, a reminder that the perfect facade was just a screen, a shallow veneer that hid the realities of life inside. As you moved through the palazzo, you began to understand the layers of history and the intricate web of relationships that made this place a home. The Rucellai family was a blend of old and new, tradition and innovation, a microcosm of the changing world outside. The palazzo, with its mix of medieval and Renaissance elements, was a reflection of this duality, a place where the past and present coexisted in a delicate balance. In the heart of Florence, Palazzo Rucellai stood as a testament to the power of illusion and the enduring legacy of a family. Behind its grand facade, the house was a living, breathing entity, a place where the Rucellai family could retreat from the world and create a world of their own. In 1452, Giovanni Rucellai commissioned Marco del Buono Gemberti and Apollonio di Giovanni di Tommaso to create a decorative ceiling for the loggia in his palace. The ceiling featured a large stone roundel, nearly 5 feet in diameter, painted with family emblem. At the center were 3 interlocking diamond rings, surrounded by a ceremonial chaplet with ostrich plumes and a banderole with a single feather. The entire design, encircled by a laurel wreath, celebrated the Rucellai family, with its high placement symbolizing their elevated status. 3 years later, in 1455, the artist Neri di Bix documented his work for Giovanni, which included painting 5 arches to mimic stone, a coat of arms in relief with a helmet, and 2 half-figures of a woman and a boy. Though the painted arches and figures have faded over time, the coat of arms remains embedded in the courtyard wall. The shield, adorned with zigzag lines and a lion, features a helmet with wave-like flourishes and Giovanni's personal emblem, fortune as opportunity, depicted as a ship's mast in full sail. The rear of the palace contained a stable, converted from a townhouse Giovanni had bought from his cousin in 1445. The stable opened onto Via dei Palchetti, a side street that served as a private driveway. Horses and carts entered through a large wooden door, and a small wicket door allowed workers and less important visitors to enter quietly. At the front of the palace, on either side of the entrance hall, were 2 main rooms. One was a smaller chamber with a mezzanine-level study, which served various purposes throughout the year, such as a sleeping room in the summer. The other, a large room, likely served as a meeting space with chests and a round table. The ground floor also included a narrow, steep staircase leading to the basement, where olive oil and wine were stored, and a grander staircase added in the 18th century. Giovanni believed that a wealthy man's house should welcome and entertain guests sumptuously. The first floor, known as the Piano Nobile, was the primary entertainment area. The main room, the Sala Principale, was spacious and decorated with a wall fountain, fireplace, and built-in benches. It contained 13 chairs, a long table, and birdcage. The ceiling featured massive wooden beams, adorned with gold leaf. The room had 3 windows facing the street, and the sounds of merrymaking would attract attention from passers-by. The placement of windows in the palace was unique. The facade was divided into bays, each containing a window, but the windows were not always centered on the interior walls. The decorative friezes on the facade did not correspond to the interior floor levels, so the windows in the Sala Principale required a set of steps to reach. The Piano Nobile also included the family's living quarters. Rooms were arranged in suites with high-beamed ceilings and polished terracotta floors. Giovanni and his wife had separate bedrooms, each with a common side door for privacy. The wife's room was near a dressing annex, and the husband's room was near a library or study. Young girls and maidens slept together, while boys and young men were closer to guests. The grandmother had a room away from household noise. In the sunny corner of the palace, a suite of rooms was likely assigned to Giovanni's widowed mother, Caterina. These rooms contained elegant furniture and art, including a large bed and several chests. Giovanni's own bedroom, the Camera Principale, was away from the street and overlooked the courtyard. It was sparsely furnished, but contained fine pieces like a walnut daubed and large chests. The third suite, possibly Iacopa's bedchamber, was designed for the wife to monitor household activities. It was decorated with devotional images and wedding chests, reflecting the strict moral standards of the time. The domestic staff was kept separate from the family and guests, with backstairs, spiral stairs, and narrow passages. 2 galleries flanking the courtyard linked the front of the house to the service wing, which included a storage room and kitchen. The kitchen was designed to be out of earshot of guests, but close enough to serve hot dishes. These covered corridors were crucial for discreet service and exits. The second floor had 4 bedrooms, but no rooms north of the courtyard. These rooms were less ornate and more practical, with simpler furnishings. The roof terrace, the Altana, added in the 1450s, ran the width of the palace. It featured a colonnade and was decorated with frescoes, including a depiction of the dream of Joseph, which resonated with Giovanni's own story as the eldest of 6 orphans. Giovanni's palace was filled with art and objects from prominent artists of his time, reflecting his appreciation and competitive desire to impress. His uncle Agnolo Pandolfini and father-in-law Palestrozzi influenced his artistic tastes, and his friendship with Leon Battista Alberti further shaped his interests. Despite this, Giovanni's approach to decorating seemed more driven by a desire to showcase his wealth and status than by a deep connoisseurship. Giovanni Rucellai, a wealthy merchant in Florence, was obsessed with accumulating and displaying his wealth. His house, which he expanded over the years, became a symbol of his status and ambition. By 1458, he had become the third richest man in Florence, but his appetite for property only grew. One day, he saw an opportunity to extend his estate by acquiring a house on Via della Vigna Nuova, which would increase his property size by nearly 30%. Despite the high price, Rucellai bought the house for 1,000 florins, more than he had paid for all his other houses combined. The addition, however, was not without its problems. The new facade was an awkward extension of the original design, and the interior was hastily remodeled, creating a patchwork of rooms that didn't quite fit together. The new entrance on the ground floor, for example, led nowhere, making the whole layout disorienting. Rucellai was confident that he would eventually buy the neighboring house, which would allow him to fully integrate the new space into his palace. But fate had other plans. The owner of the neighboring house stipulated in his will that the property must never be sold to Rucellai, a condition that would hold for 173 years. Despite these setbacks, Rucellai's ambition only intensified. He set his sights on a new project, a marble facade for the church of Santa Maria Novella, located just 1,000 feet behind his palace. This church had long been a focus of the Rucellai family's patronage, but this new donation would be on a grand scale. Rucellai funded the project with income from a farm he had acquired through a dubious financial maneuver, effectively using the proceeds from his questionable business practices to fund his pious gesture. The facade, designed by Leonbattista Alberti, was a blend of classical and Gothic elements, featuring the Rucellai coat of arms prominently and a bold inscription that read, "Giovanni Rucellai, son of Paolo, made this in the year of salvation 1470. The inscription, running 56 feet across, was a clear statement of Rucellai's ego and his desire for lasting fame, but Rucellai's ambitions didn't stop there. He wanted to reshape the neighborhood around his palace. He convinced a distant cousin, Ugolino, to sacrifice his house for the good of the family. After Ugolino's wife passed away, Rucellai demolished the house and built a loggia, an open gallery, in its place. This loggia, modeled after a Roman triumphal arch, was adorned with family emblems and created a triangular piazza that enhanced the visibility of his palace. The loggia's position across the street from the palace blurred the lines between public and private space, reflecting Rucellai's expansionist politics. The major street, Via della Vigna Nuova, ran through the center of this new Rucellai enclave, symbolizing his growing influence in the city. Rucellai's projects, from the expansion of his palace to the grand facade of Santa Maria Novella and the creation of the loggia, were all part of his relentless pursuit of fame and dignity. His wealth and vision transformed not only his own estate, but also the urban landscape of Florence, leaving a lasting mark on the city's history. Giovanni Rucellai, a wealthy and influential man of Renaissance Florence, had a unique vision for his final resting place. Long before his death in 1481, he began planning a chapel that would house his tomb, inspired by the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. This ambitious project was a reflection of his deep-seated pride in his city and his family's legacy. Rucellai's choice to be buried in the gonfalone of Lion Rosso, a symbol of his beloved Florence, was a clear statement of his local chauvinism. He believed that Florence was the most worthy and beautiful city in the world, and within it, his own neighborhood was the best place for eternal rest. In his later years, he expressed his gratitude for being born in such a place, considering it a divine gift. To realize his dream, Rucellai commissioned the great architect Leonbattista Alberti to design a chapel that would mimic the Holy Sepulchre. Alberti, known for his versatility and creativity, took on the challenge. He aimed to create a structure that would not only honor Rucellai, but also reflect the grandeur of the original holy site. The chapel, located in the church of San Pancrazio, was a small, rectangular temple with a semicircular apse and a ciborium with a spiral dome, richly adorned with intricate details and inlaid marble. Rucellai's tomb, placed at the center of the chapel, was a testament to his megalomania. The inscription on the plaque above the entrance door read, "Giovanni Rucellai, son of Paolo, caused this chapel, similar to the sepulchre in Jerusalem, to be made in 1467, in order that he might pray for his own salvation from that place whence the resurrection of all with Christ was accomplished." This grandiose statement underscored Rucellai's belief in his own importance and his desire for eternal salvation. To further enhance the significance of the tomb, Rucellai sought and obtained a papal bull from Pope Paul II, granting indulgences to those who visited the tomb on Good Fridays and Holy Sundays. This act elevated the tomb's status, making it a place of pilgrimage and spiritual importance. Both Rucellai and Alberti were masters of self-fashioning, carefully crafting their legacies through their writings and creations. Alberti, in particular, was known for his self-aggrandizing descriptions, portraying himself as a man of many talents and achievements. In a posthumous portrait, Rucellai is depicted with his notable achievements, including the Palazzo Rucellai and the facade of Santa Maria Novella, while Alberti is shown in a Roman profile, emphasizing his connection to the ancient world. The chapel and tomb of Giovanni Rucellai stand as a testament to the Renaissance spirit of humanism and the desire to leave a lasting mark on history. They reflect the deep religious and personal convictions of a man who saw himself as a chosen son and a family redeemer, and who sought to ensure his place in the eternal city of Florence. As the weeks passed, I found myself deeply immersed in the history of Palazzo Rucellai, the grand palace that had become my temporary home. The more I learned, the more I felt a connection to the people who had lived there centuries before. My small apartment, Archivio, was directly above the original footprint of Giovanni Rucellai's modest medieval townhouse, the emotional cornerstone of his urban sprawl. This discovery made me feel like a part of the palace's rich history. My thoughts often turned to Lorenzo, the 25th generation Florentine nobleman whose family had a storied past intertwined with the palace. Despite the academic distance I usually maintained, I found myself drawn to his world, curious about the secrets and traditions that defined his lineage. I decided to accept his invitation to visit his winery, a decision that felt like a step into the unknown. On the eve of my trip, I met with Luca, a trusted friend and former lover, for advice. Luca, the chief barman at the Hotel Excelsior, had a wealth of knowledge about the Italian nobility and their customs. Over a Negroni and some San Carlo potato chips, he prepared me for what lay ahead, promising to keep my secret safe. The next morning, I packed my bags and headed to the hotel, where a Land Rover Defender pulled up to take me to Lorenzo's estate. The drive was a journey through time, passing through centuries-old olive groves and vineyards, guarded by rows of towering cypress trees. The landscape was a living tapestry of history, and I felt a sense of anticipation as we approached the unassuming metal gate that marked the entrance to Lorenzo's world. Camel, the driver, greeted me with a cautious smile, and we set off through the estate. The gravel road led us deeper into the heart of the countryside, past rolling hills and verdant fields. As we arrived at the Casa Colonica, a grandmotherly figure named Elisabetta welcomed me, her hands still damp from cooking. She guided me to a stone table set under a Bedouin tent, where Lorenzo was waiting. "Eccola, come, let's eat," he said, taking my hand and leading me to the table. The meal was a feast of langoustines and other delicacies, and as we ate, Lorenzo's conversation shifted from the mundane to the personal. "So, what's your sign?" he asked, his eyes twinkling with curiosity. The day was a blend of beauty, history, and the unexpected, and I felt a growing connection to the place and the people who called it home. As the sun set over the hills, I realized that my journey was just beginning, and that the layers of history and tradition would continue to unfold, revealing more about the world I had entered. The saga of the Rucellai family was one of grandeur and stringent duty. Giovanni Rucellai, the patriarch, had built a palace that stood as a testament to his wealth and power, but his true legacy lay in the responsibility he passed down to his descendants. The burden of maintaining the family's legacy was immense, and it often led to unusual and drastic measures. One such measure was the wedding gift given to Gennaro Rucellai, Giovanni's son, when he married Lucrezia Bini in 1483. Antonio Pucci, a friend of the family, commissioned the renowned artist Sandro Botticelli to create a series of 4 panels depicting a dark and cautionary tale from Boccaccio's Decameron, titled The Story of Nastagio degli Onesti. This tale was a stark reminder of the dire consequences of unrequited love, and the importance of marriage and procreation. Nastagio, a young and wealthy man from Ravenna, fell deeply in love with a woman from the noble Traversari family. Despite his lavish efforts to win her affection, she remained cruel and indifferent. Concerned that Nastagio would squander his fortune, His friends advised him to leave the city and retreat to the countryside. He obliged, setting up a temporary court in a nearby hamlet, but his heartache persisted. One Friday morning, while wandering in a nearby pine forest, Nastagio encountered a harrowing scene. A beautiful woman, naked and terrified, was being pursued by two fierce mastiffs and a dark knight on horseback. As he prepared to defend the woman, the knight revealed a chilling truth. He was Guido degli Anastaghi, a former citizen of Ravenna, who had taken his own life out of despair over the woman's rejection. In the afterlife, Guido was condemned to chase and kill the woman every Friday, tearing out her cold, unloving heart to feed the dog. This grim tale served as a profound warning to Genazzo and Lucrezia. It emphasized the dangers of unfulfilled desire and the critical importance of a successful marriage. For the Rucellai family, the story was a stark reminder that the survival of their lineage depended on the strength and stability of their unions. In the modern day, the legacy of the Rucellai family continues to influence the lives of those who study and admire their history. The altarpiece by a follower of Bernardo Daddi, which once adorned the walls of Palazzo Rucellai, has traveled a circuitous path from Florence to New Orleans, a journey that mirrors the intricate and sometimes unpredictable path of human destiny. For those who delve into the history of the Rucellai, the story of Nastagio's fate serves as a poignant reflection on the balance between passion and duty, and the enduring power of love and family. The Rucellai Palace stands as a symbol of this legacy, a reminder that the choices we make today shape the world we leave behind.